The man elected to oversee policing in West Yorkshire says he should have a bigger say on how much money is spent dealing with protests. More than £1 million was spent on the policing of a demo by the far-right English Defence League in Bradford at the weekend. Police and Crime Commissioner Mark Burns-Williamson thinks he should be able to limit spending. Lib Dem MP for Bradford East, David Ward, says it is an issue.
Well, I think there is a genuine concern about, in theory, I suppose, the EDL or anybody else could come back every single day, and the costs would be picked up by the local community through paying for its taxes towards the police authority. And is that fair?
Larry Bird,
BBC Radio Leeds.
The question really is, are we paying a too high a price to allow people to have their voice, to be allowed to protest? Well, last week the Prime Minister, David Cameron, was in West Yorkshire. We asked him for his views on the policing of those protests.
There is a balance. I mean, the police are allowed to ban marches on certain grounds. That's set out in the law. So it is possible, but I think, as a country, what we have to do is balance people's right to protest with, obviously, the rights of everyone else to go about their daily lives, and we have to police these protests properly. I'm satisfied that the police have the numbers and the powers that they need. Look, I think the EDL is a hateful organisation, and I think the recent resignations there have been just underline what an extremist organisation it is. But obviously it's up to the police locally, working with council leaders and others, to work out how best to police these occasions.
The Prime Minister, David Cameron. Well, we can now speak with the MP for Bradford East. That is David Ward. He's on the line to us this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. Where do you stand on this idea that the Police and Crime Commissioner should be able to perhaps limit these protests, the likes of which we saw in Bradford on Saturday?
Well, I was never a fan. In fact, I voted against the Police and Crime Commissioners, but if they're going to exist, then they should have the powers. I actually spoke to Mark on the Friday celebration event. It was good to see him there, and I discussed with him then the position where he doesn't have the power to make these decisions locally, but has to pick up the cost. And if this decision, I've just heard the PM on your piece saying that as a country we need to get the balance right, but it's not as a country that we have to pick up the bill. And it is either a national policy that we allow these demonstrations, in which case it should be picked up at a national level, or you should allow the Police and Crime Commissioner at a local level to make this decision, and the cost is then picked up at the local level. But what you can't have is this situation where it's made a national decision, a Home Secretary ultimately, but we have to locally have to pick the cost of these. It's an enormous cost. Can I just say to you also, I saw nothing in yesterday's Sunday paper, and that is a great success. Just think what it could have been. So when people talk about the cost of policing this, the great success was that there was nothing in yesterday's Sunday paper. There would have been, of course, this is the other sad fact, that if there had been any trouble, it would, of course, been on the front page of the Sunday papers.
Yeah. Let me just ask you to clarify something, Mr. Ward. Are you saying that you think the Police and Crime Commissioner for West Yorkshire should have the power to either ban or to limit the number of people going to protests in West Yorkshire? What
I'm saying is you can't have it both ways. You cannot have the decision being made at a national level, but the cost of the decision being, the impact of that being on local council taxpayers who are funding the police authority. If we're going to pick up the cost locally, we should have the powers locally to determine whether a demonstration, the scale of that demonstration, what that should be. My own view is this is a national policy. The freedom of speech, which is often talked about, is behind all this, and we all support that. But if that is a national policy, then it ought to be funded at a national level when we have these enormous costs of policing these demonstrations.
All right, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
The MP for Bradford East, David Ward.